Cool. All right, so last night, actually, or this morning at 5 a.m., I was watching your interview with Matt Higgins.
Yes.
Fantastic interview, and it brought, like, the entire conversation for today just changed after watching that. And it made me think of your origin story. And the first thing I thought of was when you came to this country from Belarus.
Yes.
And the Jets origin story, if you don't mind just sharing that, because it's such an important story that I think others can understand why that's such a big deal.
So I came when I was 3. We lived in Queens for a year or two. Then we moved to Dover for a year, and then we moved to Edison, New Jersey, which is really when I think my kind of life began. That was the summer of '82. I was going to be turning 7, I guess, that November. So I was 6 and change. You know, at this point, we're still very Russian. But unlike most, Russian immigrants that moved to Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, we moved to Jersey. And it was 1982, which meant parents just sent their kids outside. And I'm just literally roaming. This is just so crazy to think about in today's day and age. I'm roaming outside looking for activity.
No internet.
No internet and no fear of kidnapping
Right.
and nothing. And just like, I'm outside. I'm a 6-year-old kid walking outside looking for kids. And I see kids. And I walk over and they're playing football. And, within that conversation, a kid asked me who I'm a fan of. He said, "You're a Jets fan." And basically, I started watching the Jets that September, and I haven't missed a play since. There's a very classic story where they all had jerseys. We couldn't afford it, so my mom knitted me what is my prized possession, which is a New York Jets jersey. It's not here. I'm just like,
I was looking for it.
It's like such a prized possession. I have it like literally fireproof. Like I plan on like unveiling it when I buy the Jets at the stadium. But literally, like we were so poor that it'd be crazy to buy a Jets jersey.
So not soon thereafter, I think you were saying in middle school, you already decided, okay, it's cool, I'm going to buy the Jets.
Yes.
And I don't know if you ever heard the story about Ted Turner's father.
No.
So he committed suicide.
Yes.
And he committed suicide because he set a goal that he hit, and then he was had nothing else to do in his life. And he said to his son, Ted, before he committed suicide, don't ever hit a goal in life that you can hit, because once you hit it, you'll have nothing else to do. And after that happened, Ted bought the Billboard company, and then he set a goal, I want to have the biggest media network in the world, and of course, that's what he did.
Yes.
And probably not realizing it when you were in middle school, you did the same thing.
Yes.
How important do you think it is for all of us here and everybody who watches you to think of what is their Jets? What is their media broadcasting? How do you do that?
I think it's a very interesting question that is a little bit more complicated than I think if I heard that question and didn't have context of how I think about it, then people realize. I could give a shit if I buy the New York Jets.
Right.
I'm obsessed with the process of trying to buy the New York Jets. So falling in love with what you do and then having some sort of North Star of the output of what you do is an incredibly successful framework, at least in my opinion, from watching from afar.
So you might not have an answer for this, but the emotional component of the sweater, right, and coming here was enough to like push you there. Is there anything that you can think of to help others who are trying to figure out what their North Star is? To like, okay, I need a North Star so I can drive for the next 30 years?
The problem with North Stars is, I think people create North Stars that are too financially oriented. Like, I want to buy the Jets. If you think about what's so amazing about the Jets is, I want to buy the Jets to then start the whole thing over because then I have to win the most Super Bowls. It's a game of perpetuity.
Yep.
So I think it's outrageously important, and we are in the beginning stages because we're talking about mental health, thank God, finally. I think that the greatest privilege, because I think that word's being thrown around a lot in our society right now, is to be happy and healthy in your head. I think one of the incredible ways to be happy and healthy in your head is to actually value doing something that you get enjoyment from that you would do anyway, versus what the financial impacts are of that.
Yeah.
So I found entrepreneurship very early on. I have a terrible report card hanging there because I found it early on. I posted it and I've let it sit there all day because I want people to understand what it means, which is I became so self-aware that I loved the hustle and grind of lemonade, baseball cards, selling wine, and whatever else I do for the rest of my life, the process of being an entrepreneur, a marketer, a seller, an operator, that I'm forever, the only thing I fear is the health and well-being of myself and the people I love, because it's the only thing that will ever stop me. There is no retirement.
Sure. So let's talk about the report card. What was, did something, like what made you, is it just kind of a last minute thing, I'm gonna post that, or something you thought about for a while?
No, I didn't have anything I felt excited about posting
Perfect.
today, and I knew I posted it once before, but I felt like I wanted to expand on it, so I wrote a lot more copy this time.
Yep.
And so I wanted people to zoom in and see I got a D in speech. I think it's very powerful that I, somebody who makes multi-million dollars a year speaking, got a D in speech. I just think a lot of people need to see that. I think parents need to see that. I think kids need to see that.
You were bored, maybe.
I was unbelievably, you know what's funny? I was invigorated by something else. You know, boredom, yes, is the byproduct of understanding how little impact it would have on me.
In terms of entrepreneur education, I know, to me, that's what EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, is all about. It's about being with other peer entrepreneurs and learning from each other. What you're doing with Vayner Mentors and with 4Ds, the classes here, it seems like you're, and do you know what WeWork is doing right now? It's unbelievable. Where do you see, you look at the Ds in the report cards, I have 3 kids under 10, I know you have kids. I wish I could put them in a WeWork school. Where do you see the opportunities?
It's coming.
And where are you, like, so for where I see for you guys, I see there's a market in between the 4Ds class and the Vayner Mentors where it's the 1 million to 5 million, where it's
100%.
Gary V school.
I think about it all the time.
Let's do it.
but I want to be really, really ready.
Right.
Because it's one of the biggest things I'll ever do. And so if it manifests in, there's a million things that run through my mind. There's obviously the scalability of the internet itself. There's the complete corroding of the brand of school, which is happening in a very meaningful way. There's the fantasy of like actually having a physical school presence for K through 12 that is actually from day one entrepreneurship, because boy, would I have been unbelievable. I would be 10 times the entrepreneur I am today if I was taught certain things that I had to find out for
Focus on
myself.
your mind.
But just like simple shit like investing patterns, or like how to pay taxes, or like hire fast, fire fast, or different things I believe in. Like, you know, I would have paid attention in 3rd grade to why New Coke failed, or why Nike was able to take back market share from Adidas. Like, I would listen. Like, I didn't want to listen to how many rings are around Saturn. And I'm still not going to want to be interested in that.
Would you say one of the biggest things is people understanding patience? You say, because I remember you guys were talking in the interview yesterday, nobody fires fast, like you want to, but you got to figure out over time.
Look, I think my biggest fear, and probably within your organization, I'd die to know how this is being viewed, I think the biggest fear I have right now is entrepreneurship is so popular that this is the greatest era of fake entrepreneurship, which I believe leads to a lot of bad things over the next decade or two when things collapse. Because I think what we didn't have with failed entrepreneurs in the past was a public persona of acting that you were successful when you weren't.
Sure.
So the scarlet letter of all the failings that are about to happen is something I fear.
So in EO, so you have to have $1 million in revenue to
Yes.
be in it. So you're big on talking about your attitude.
Yes.
You're a business operator.
Yes.
And that's why you're doing these things here, because you're a teacher. So the thing that I see it happens in EO is people get to 1 million to 3 million to 5 million, and they get comfortable and they stop.
Yeah.
And that's what I get more,
Interesting.
keeps me up at
I
night.
get it.
And that's where I am, and that's why I'm here right now.
That's right, I understand that.
So how do we eat these?
And there's that, to your point, that's absolutely right. It's like not fulfilling the bucket you have in front of you or the potential. And then there's just over leveraging when you get, to 10 and 20 and 30. There's a million ways to not fully get to all the upside one has. It's almost the same way I think about life. The great misfortunes are being born with way too much or way too little. And I will always pick way too little over way too much. And so I think you're right. And I think that there is an incredible conversation being had in society that I've never been more optimistic about the human race. Which throws so many of my friends off, because obviously the current American political climate and
You
many
watch
other...
the news, that's good.
I watch the news and I understand that it's the context that we're going to build on top of. I think that the world has been, especially in the old way of media, completely propped up by bullshit
Yeah, no,
and shadows.
100%.
And so
Sensationalism.
100%. And just protectionism,
Yeah.
which is now
The
out
wine
door.
business. I mean,
So to me, I'm unbelievably passionate about where things are going. I think that practicality and patience and work ethic and like, I just think there's a lot of fun combos being had. And I think complacency is very scary. And I'm a big believer in that as well.
to bring you to an operations question.
Sure.
You mentioned RSE, RSE, right? Is the only investor in VaynerMedia.
That's right.
It was earlier on.
Yes.
And obviously, best investor you have, he's a genius.
Yeah.
When you look back at that, what were your reasonings for doing that? Was it to help
My
you scale?
No, we took all the money off the table.
Okay.
Every dollar. Zero went into operations.
Got it.
My brother wanted money.
Bottom line.
I love my brother.
When you look back at it, how has that helped you or hurt you? Would you change anything about it as people are thinking about when they're scaling their businesses?
I knew the day I did the deal that it wasn't a great financial deal, but I did think the benefit of getting into the NFL family, and I love my brother. So, you know, I think that when you're sitting on a business that you know you're about to explode, and you're selling a piece of it, and you're not using capital to grow the business,
Yeah.
and you personally, as one of the partners, don't need the money, it's not the most exciting deal on paper, but between having that relationship and what I had to do for my partner, who happens to be my 11-year younger brother, I was super cool with it and don't regret it. Like anybody watching or listening, I regret it zero. I have these, like,
But you don't regret anything generally.
I don't regret anything generally.
I've watched a lot of everyone I told before I was coming here that I was meeting with you, they were so excited and energized.
I appreciate
and
that.
I got all these questions come to me, but it's hard to translate it to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And then to this, we're gonna, whatever you want to do with it, we're gonna leave. We have a frame for you. This is.
It's amazing. You're so
I've
talented.
actually worked with graphic recorded with you a bunch of times. The first time we met was in Madrid, Spain, in November of 2010.
When I flew in and flew out
Yeah,
in
you
6
flew
hours.
and that was the first time I heard your story about the wine and your family business.
Thank you.
And then at the most recent one was when you were at World's interviewing
Yeah,
Will
I
I Am.
remember.